Hi everyone, I'm Gary and this is Emil Victor. He's our designer and I'm Gary, CEO at Marker.io. And today we wanted to talk to you about our new project that we just completed, which is the revamp of our brand new marketing website, for which we're super excited. And today we wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek into our process, our thought process, our collaboration, all the questions we went through as we were building this website. Emil is going to talk extensively about his best practice for building a design style of the website and many different tips about this whole project. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Emil. You probably already talked to me at the support of Marker or on Twitter. I'm really excited to do this podcast with you, Gary, because it was a huge project doing the whole website, and we learned a lot by working in Webflow and also reworking the whole website from beginning to the end. And we wanted to share with you some tips and tricks, and I'm really excited to jump in with you, Gary.
All right, perfect. Me too, man. Okay, so let's start off by the very beginning. Okay, why did we decide to revamp the website in the first place? Because we had an existing website, right? Maybe you want to start by telling us a little bit about, design, branding, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So in terms of design and branding, we had something a bit like childish, and I wanted to go for something a bit more professional. I can show you what we had. So beforehand, we had something that looked like this. We were using a library of illustration called Humans, and which helped us to design this first version of the website. We were quite happy with it, and it worked for a while, but definitely we thought it was a bit too colorful, and in terms of branding as a whole, and the content was also not really put in at first. So with the whole redesign, we really wanted to focus on the content first, because we have a lot of integration and we work with a lot of platforms. And by doing this deep integration, we wanted to use their branding, their colors, and like, for example, working with Jira and Atlassian, they have a really strong blue, and we wanted to use this color palette and color theme to be at the center of all the new pages. And if I can show you, like, this script was really one of our inspiration when we started to work on the website, because as you can see, they really focus on the typography and the content, and they have a really strong identity, and we wanted to be close to this approach where the content is at the core of the redesign, basically.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And when I look back at the previous website, I remember when we first built it 2 or 3 years ago, it was really us thinking, oh man, we need to make our website look so nice and so pretty. And that's why we went for like these little illustration. And for this website redesign project that we just did, we actually flipped completely our philosophy, and we said, okay, the goal is not necessarily to make the most beautiful website. Also, that's something very important to us, but it's also so that our message comes across a lot better. And maybe I can talk a little bit about my perspective of why it was important for us to do this new website. And the first part is, over the past 2 years, our product has evolved a lot, and with it, our product market fit, our ideal customer changed a little bit as well. And so we wanted to actually make our value proposition fit better with what our best customer were actually looking for. And that's why you'll see on our new website, everything is really focused on the story of the customer, and there are a lot more quotes, and there are video interviews of customer talking about the value proposition of Marker. And so from my perspective, we didn't want to build a website of us pitching Marker, but almost as if our customer we're gonna pitch Marker. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the second thing that was really important to me for building a new website is actually going with Webflow and changing the platform to a website that was custom built previously to Webflow. And a lot of people are going to ask, why did you use Webflow? And there are many different reasons, but I think the biggest reason, at least for me, is in the past, every time I wanted to make a change on the website, I had to get Emil involved. I had to ask him, hey, can you create this landing page? And it was a lot of like coding around. And now we've had this new website for about 3-4 weeks now. We're releasing our new WordPress plugin, and I was able to create the landing page by my own in like half a day. And Emil is only going to help me for like 15 minutes to just fine tune everything design wise. And so basically it's this idea of moving the ownership of the marketing website from the product and design team back to the marketing team that needs this tool to be able to pitch marker, to be able to connect with customers better. So that was really my second point for me.
Yeah, it's really important, because beforehand, every single time you were asking me something, it would take me at least one day just to be able to change the code, make sure that everything was working properly, do back and forth with you so that you could at least check one more time on staging environment, and then publish and release the website live. Whereas now you have full control on the content. You can duplicate the page, change the copy, press publish, and it's done. And in 1 hour, you can have a landing page live, basically.
Yeah, and it's funny also, one side effect is, before, because I couldn't actually go into the website, I would mock up my ideas on a sheet of paper or mock-up tool like Whimsical. And then every time I would show that to you for you to like go ahead and implement that in the website, my copy were always way too long, my visual didn't match. And now that I'm able to actually write down the copy directly into Webflow, I can see that this tagline is going to be way too long or way too short, or this subtitle is like way too long. And so there's a lot of back and forth that doesn't need to happen anymore.
Yeah, that's super important, because being able to create the content and the text directly in the design makes a perfect synchronization and a perfect match between our two skills, basically. And
exactly, and we're going to talk a little more about how when we first created the Webflow, it was a bit of a mess because I had those mock-ups that just didn't match what you had in mind. But again, I don't want to jump too fast into this. We'll get back to it, but maybe, do you want to add something more?
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you can talk about how you came up with putting the customer in the center of the discussion, and how you did a lot of interviewing with our customers. So maybe you can share a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, usually when you start a web design project, your first instinct is start to, build some mock-ups or wireframes and try to make it better and think about copy. We actually did it the other way around. We actually didn't mock up anything for at least a month or two. And the only thing that we did was try to get customer insights. So my dream has always been like our tagline to be something coming out of the mouth of one of our customers, right? And if you go to our homepage, the tagline says reporting bugs shouldn't be rocket science, and that's actually it came out of one of our customers during these interviews. So I thought that there's nothing better than that. And so the way we approach this, we actually read a book called Obviously Awesome, which is, I can quickly show you here. It's by April Dunford, and it's a book about positioning and making sure that how you position your product, your customer will love it because it resonates with them. And I recommend that you guys check out this book, Obviously Awesome. But if you don't want to read the whole thing, the author actually posted a guest post here. I'll put the link in the show notes, and basically she goes on to explain how to think about positioning. And for me, it really came down to these two graphs. I'm just going to try to make them better. So this first screenshot you see here is how you should not do positioning, which is trying to fill out the blanks. So our product is a that does blank, which enables blank for target customers, unlike competitors. And this is it's an approach that is really focused on the company as opposed to understanding what your customers are going through. And so the authors suggest this new framework, which is going like each step in a specific order, and it all starts with the competitive alternatives. And the questions you need to ask your customers is, if Marco.io didn't exist, what would you use? And as founders, we know all our competitors and we always focused on them. Like, I'm sure they are on us, and whatever the business you're in, you always focus on your competitor to a certain extent. But I was blown away how little our direct competitors came up in these customers interviews that we did. Usually when people, I ask, if your market didn't exist, what would you use? Most people like, yeah, I'm not sure. I would probably go back to what I was doing before, but it was a mess, so I don't want to go back. And I'm like, yeah, what were you doing before? And basically it's just like email, clients sending emails, listing issues in a spreadsheet. And this insight alone helps us, pitch Marco way better when we build our website. So for instance, if you go to our feature page, I actually made a video, and that's how I start the video. I say, hey, we were a web design agency and we were dealing with clients' email and spreadsheets and screenshot in PowerPoint. Maybe that's also what you're going through, and then people it resonates with them. So I'm not going to go too much into this framework, but my point here is to really help people realize that when you're actually doing customer interviews, don't just go for the how has Marco changed your life, or what's the value of Marco. Try to understand what their life were before your product or service, before they were using your product and service, because you're going to find a lot of insights there and a lot of copy that are really going to resonate with your website visitors. And then there's this quote that I love. I can never remember who it's coming from, but it basically says, if you can articulate the problem that people are feeling better than they can articulate it themselves, they're going to assume that you have the solution. So if you can just say, hey, this is your exact problem, and with examples and analogy and stuff like that, then the customer is going to assume that you have this level of insight, so you must have the solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super insightful. It really helped a lot that you did this customer interview, and also for the whole team to be able to see these interviews and understand really what was the pain that we were solving with Marco in the customer world. Also helps to be closer to our customers. So this was a really important work to do before starting to actually work on the content of the website and also in general.
Thank you. I was super happy with these customer interviews. Now the next question is maybe, and that's a bit more tactical, is how we incentivize, how we got all these interviews. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I thought that it was kind of interesting, the approach that we took. So we actually went to Intercom, which is our CRM, and we listed all the best users of our product. We actually reached out to them by sending them a personal email asking for an interview. We use a tool called Calendly so that they can actually book a time that works for them, and there's no conflict in your calendar with them, so you don't have to go back and forth trying to figure out a good time to speak. And one little trick that I used in those emails is I would always end my email by saying, PS, we can also use this interview, so that I can give you a sneak peek into our upcoming product roadmap. And since they were all our best customers, this was an incentive big enough for them to actually reach back to us, and it was win-win. They would give us insight by us asking us questions, and then we would actually reward them by showing them what we were working on. So that worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then really quickly, in terms of the other tools that we use Google Meet for all these the interviews. We recorded every single interviews, and then all these interviews we uploaded them into Descript, which is a tool that you already talked about before, which actually takes your video and turns it into a transcript. And this transcript, we used it to highlight all the key insights, and then eventually also turn that into customers' stories. All right, yeah, I went on a bit of a rant there, but Emil, tell me a little bit about our first really collaboration when I had all these interviews that I worked with Lily, and then I came to you and I had some ideas mocked up. And tell me what it was like prototyping the first version of the website.
Yeah, so in the beginning, the way it went is that I had a good idea of where I wanted to go, more or less, in terms of design and branding, and like changing a bit the positioning of the marker website. And I can show you, this is one of the first design mockup that I worked on, and I worked on this for like maybe a week or two, and then I showed it to the whole team, and I worked on it all by myself. That means that I really wanted to express what was my understanding of the problem of the customer, and then show it to the team. And as you can see, I really emphasis on the content, and the illustration of the product are really what is coming at first, and they are driving all the colors that you can see on the page with a customer testimonial and all the logo of a customer. And basically, once I did show that to Gary, Lily, and the rest of the team, there was actually a lot of not a backlash, but just a lot of discussion about the copy and the positioning. And then that's when we noticed that we had to take a step back, and that's when Gary and Lily really went into doing all the content, but in wireframe, directly in Whimsical. And I can show you how they went about that. And so in Whimsical, which is a really great tool to do prototyping and mockups, wireframes, they actually started to map all the page and creating the copy for all the page. And so they created the copy for the pages, and this is an example of the home page. And so what was really good for me was that all the content was there, and you could really have a flow directly of the page, and like what were the steps for the customers, and how to better understand Marker.io. But what I was missing is the fact that I couldn't really see well how the page would really fit in terms of branding, structure, and also sometimes the copy was a bit too long or too short, and I needed to rework it, and we had to rework it directly in Whimsical, just to make sure that we could have like a easy way to change the element, to move them all around. And so that's what we came up with which was something that was already much closer to the final product of the website. And here what you can see is that we reworked a bit the headline and the subtitle and all the rest of the page, and this looks already a bit more closer to what we have right now. And because we also started to work on the illustration at the same time, and as you can see, it's really hard to have only the text without the illustration, because sometimes you're gonna change the text based on what you can see on the side. And if you see the illustration properly, and you make the illustration and you make your point come across via the illustration, then you want we wanted to have the text that support the illustration, but don't just copy what we were saying in the illustration. And so that's why it was really important to work hand in hand with the marketing team and Gary to make sure that we agreed on what we wanted to show, but also what we wanted to say. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this specific step, and for all of you listening out there, I think this is the most crucial and the step where there's the most friction, because us as marketeers, we do all these interviews, we collect these insights, and then we can explain it better than ever, we feel, and then we have to put that on the web page. And obviously building website is not what we do, is not our DNA, it's not our job title. So you try to do the best with your understanding of the customer, but Emil's expertise is building website, right? And so our mock-up, when he saw that, it was like, what the hell is this? And for me, I was like, but come on, man, it kind of makes sense. It's like a nice flow, and this is the story of the customer. And so we actually went a lot of back and forth. He tried to, fit his design to my version. Then I tried to, improve my version based on his design. And I remember at some point, we just kind of fed up with the whole thing. And we're just like, come on, man, let's pop up like one blank page and let's work together to translate whatever insight we got from these customers' interviews and our own understanding of the pain into something that just works. And that's why collaboration between marketers and designers is fundamental at this point. Yeah, and I thought what was really interesting is us, after those interviews, we had like 25 different pages on the website mapped out with a bunch of copy. And, just by focusing on the 3 key pages for us, the home page, the feature page, and the integration page, we sort of were able to, funnel down and really focus on of nailing those 3 key pages. And we knew that if we did a great job on these 3 pages, everything would kind of flow smoothly for the rest of the website.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe it's a good introduction, because that's from there that we started to really investigate how are we going to build this in Webflow. And I think...
Yeah, exactly. Like, can you tell? I remember there was a lot of back and forth, and we were actually considering maybe doing a custom template, a custom design versus using a template. Can you talk to us a little bit about, this whole thought process of yours of choosing a right Webflow strategy?
Yeah. So before starting to actually building the website, I knew I wanted to build the website with Webflow, because I've been following Webflow for already a long time, and I was really excited about the technology. But after digging a little bit, just like for 1 hour or 2, inside the Webflow and how to build a custom website, I knew it would take me a lot of time to build the whole website from scratch, because it's I can code, and I know how to code a website from scratch. But when you build a website in Webflow, you really build with code, but visually, and so it really slows me down as a coder, a front-end coder. It really slows me down, because I'm really used to go really fast and create my component, copy paste, and go really fast. And whereas in Webflow, you have to build every single component individually. And so I was like, I need to find someone to help me on this, because I don't want to spend too much time by myself building everything. And so I started to contact, on Webflow, you have something called the experts. They have a whole section, hire an expert. And here you can actually find a lot of professional or agencies that actually can develop a website for you. And I went ahead and contacted maybe 3 or 4 agencies and freelancers to help us on this. And they actually were able to do it, but the big issue was that they asked us a budget of $40,000, which was definitely out of our budget, and we couldn't really afford doing a whole website for this price. This price is reasonable, because we were asking them to come up with a design of all the templates page that we haven't done yet, They had to create like a whole template for us, completely custom, make sure the JavaScript was working well, responsive, everything. So basically the whole package of a website. So it's not a question, is that too expensive or not? It's more that we couldn't really afford it. And so my first reaction to that was like, okay, we need to come up with a solution. And I started to look around for good templates. I know that on Webflow, you have a lot of people creating templates. And then I looked online and I managed to find a template that was really dedicated and made for SaaS. That means that they had all the components that we needed. For example, they had landing page like this. They had also pricing page, like this one, you see, like this. They had customer codes. They had also different sections. They had a way to show customer logos. And these are all the basic components of a SaaS business. And then I thought, okay, let's try this. We're going to start with this base and see how it works. And so my first goal was to really convert these 3 pages that we have here inside Webflow with this template. And so that's how it went. That's how I started. I chose one landing page, and then I could see all these components, and I started to work and use these components. Sometimes I had to change the classes and like change the copy, but that was taking me so much less time than if I would have started from the very beginning. So that was really useful.
Yeah, and looking from the outside, coming from the WordPress world, when we had our web design agency before Marker, when Emil told me we're going to use a template, at first I was like, no way, man, and we're going to be stuck in like a way of thinking and of doing things. We're not going to have a lot of flexibility. But that's the good thing about Webflow as a tool, is that you can actually use a template, and it's not like a skin that are stuck with. It's really just, it's almost the way I would describe it. It's a starting point. You have like blocks, and you can rearrange blocks as you wish, and then you can change the look and feel of those blocks, and soon enough you have a complete different website than what you see on the original templates. So I think templates in Webflow are definitely underrated. They should definitely be used more as a starting point, and then you can take your template in a very unique direction, I guess.
Yeah, and something I want to add on top of that is that on Webflow you have a showcase. You have a section showcase where they actually put it the spotlight, like the best website that you can build with Webflow, and that really gave me the confidence that we could build something that was unique to Marker.io, but at the same time based on something that was already existing, which was the template. And I knew that I could just have this skeleton of the website, but just build a UI and a UX on top of that. And so it really helped to find all these resources, and it was really insightful for me.
Yeah. All right, super interesting. So now that we've talked about prototyping and our strategy for building our first starting off of custom or a template, can you walk us a little bit more about how to actually start in Webflow? So you've selected your templates. What are the first things to sort of get right?
Yeah. So to start up in Webflow, the first thing I did was really use the different section that we saw before. So if I show you this was the same section that you can see in Oli here, for example, you see, and you have the text on the left, image on the right, and then same for this one. And then I started to build section by section and make sure that all the sections were actually working well together. And I really focused on making this first home page look exactly how I wanted, so that when I would continue to create all the other pages, they would already look something closer to the final website that we would have. And it's especially important, I think, to do that from the very beginning, because when you share, when I'm sharing the website with the rest of the team and I say, can you give feedback? It's really hard for the rest of the team to only give feedback on the building of the website and see that the text is on the left and the blocks are on the right. And then if I tell them, okay, give me only feedback on what you think about the whole flow of the page and how you think about the spacing and the different section. If I ask them to do that, if it doesn't look close to the final product or the final website, I'm going to receive feedback like, yeah, but the typo is too small, or it's not the right color, or why is the text still green, for example. And from experience, it's always better to take a bit more time to polish at least one page and to share when it's a bit polished. At least it's 90%, doesn't have to be perfect from the get-go, so you can still have like spacing issues or like little things that don't work well. But it's very important, I think, to try to make it look close to the final product. Especially, I was using another typo before, and I got a lot of comments from the internal team about the typo. And then I knew from the beginning that, okay, it wasn't the right typo, and I changed in the middle of the project. As you can see, I was using this typo, and I got a lot of comments about the contrast between the typo here and the subtext. And then I decided to go about something really more, a bit more classic and a bit more neutral that would make the content pop more than the typography and the style of the typo.
Yeah. And it's really also the moment where you had your, those high fidelity mock-ups that we built together in Wismical and the mockup tool.
Yeah.
And then you had your creative vision for where you wanted to, your artistic vision for where you wanted to take the website in Figma. And so you had Figma on the one hand, Wismical mockups on the other hand, and then Webflow in the middle. And you had to sort of, that was the moment when everything started to come together, right?
Yeah, exactly. If I can just, the way I was working, I had my design on the right, and then I had Whimsical on the left and Webflow on my second screen. And I was really working okay, how do I want to make this looks? And then I would take this, my design, and then I would go and try to find a style that would match this. And then I would look at the template and try to find a section. And then I would copy the component and add it to the workflow. That's how we build it component by component. Yeah.
All right, very, very interesting. And it's, I think, a good starting point to really focus on nailing those key pages, again, directly into Webflow. And that sort of defines your whole style guide, because you're starting to pick your fonts, your colors, your spacing.
Yeah.
And then you can reuse that on the other pages then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Can we talk a bit about, some, and that's going to be a bit less for me and for actual developers or designers that are listening out there. Do you have some advanced tips and tricks for how you build a website in Webflow, be it a page organization, your CSS class system, or how are you using symbols, etc., etc.?
For sure. So the first thing I want to share is that in Webflow you work with pages. And on every website, but in Webflow you have the list of all your pages here on the left. And something we started from the very beginning is that we needed to have something organized, and we wanted to create the same structure that we have on the menu here, but on the left. And to do that, we actually, a small little trick that Gary came up was to have creating a folder just with hyphen on the left and right, to make sure that all the pages were structured and easy to get access to, so that when we would link a link somewhere to this page, it would be easy to find this page directly to this direct page. And so yeah,
I was gonna say And the reason we did that is because there's a limitation in Webflow, is that if we were to put those pages inside the folder, Webflow would automatically add the folder name as the inside the URL, and we didn't want people to have to go to marker.io/integration/Jira, because those are key pages for us. We want them to go to marker.io/Jira, and we didn't want to mess around with redirection at this point. And so it's not really how folders were supposed to be used, but we used it like this, and it worked pretty well for us.
Yeah, it works super well. Something else that I can share is that we based all our class system on OOCSS, which is a framework to make sure that you have really low level class CSS. A good example of this is actually Bass CSS, which is a framework that we use all the time to build Marker.io, and it helps to make sure that you have a class that you can apply everywhere on your component, and it will just apply this class. For example, here you have the class bold. It will make the text bold, but you can apply it on a paragraph, you can apply it on a title, you can apply it on everything. And we really made sure to use the same approach when we were building the website, so that I could just reuse classes across the different pages and the different components. For example, here you see you have the heading, which says that it's a big text heading, but then I have another class, small line 8, and so if I just remove it now, you will see that the line 8 becomes bigger. And so I wanted to make sure that everywhere we had the same structure and same philosophy in terms of classes, and that really helps to go much faster, because when you design your class, you create a system for your class to work together. Webflow will directly suggest all the class they call this combo class, and you can directly say, okay, this is a block code, you want it large, okay, make it large, and then you want it small, okay, you can make it small. And then when you work on your page to customize the styling, you can go much faster if you go on another page, create this component, and reuse the class. So that's something I wanted to share also. Yeah. Regarding the images, there is so when you upload an image, that's something I can recommend you to do from the very beginning, because I had to re-upload all my pictures at the end of the project, and it took me a really long time because Webflow doesn't really compress images. And so at the end of building the website, you want to optimize your website for speed, and you want to make sure it's compliant with the Google Lighthouse, which I will talk about it a bit later. But something I suggest before you upload any picture to the Webflow is to use a tool called Optimage. And this tool is you can use for free with a limited amount of picture, but it's only $15, and it's really amazing in terms of compression and speed. And you can just drop all your pictures, it compress them, and then you upload them on your website, and then it makes the whole optimization so much faster because you don't have to redo it at the end of the project. And talking about images, something else I want to recommend you is also to directly when you upload an image, and that's something I didn't do from the beginning, and so I had to do it afterward, and as you can see I'm still not done, is to add an alt text to all the image that you upload, because it's so much better for the SEO, and when you don't do it, you will get a notification I think somewhere here, or when you try to optimize your website, it will tell you, okay, you need to add alt text to all your images. And if you do it from the very beginning, when you start to upload all your image, it will be much easier to do that. Yeah, something else maybe is regarding all the the components. So that's a very if I go on the feature page, so you see when I hover this section with my mouse, it becomes green, and you can see on the left you have all these symbols. And so this means that we can reuse these symbols on other pages, and without having to
there's just like one small caveat that's important, and I think we made this mistake as well, is those simple, so basically reusable components inside Webflow. They are very powerful because you don't have to, they're reusable basically. So if you make a change on one page, it automatically changes everywhere. So that's usually used for your nav bar, your footer and stuff like that, but you can use it also for components that are pretty similar in your page. But you don't want to overdo it, because then you realize that you're stuck in like a very simple in a way of doing things. So as soon as you want to say, hey, but for this page we should like completely change how we present this visual or something like this, it can become tricky. And there are some variables that you can make your components a bit more dynamic, and you can change some variables, but sometimes you just want to take it into a different direction. So our recommendation is basically to not build any symbols at all when you're first doing it, and then as you see that you will get value into reusing some symbols around, then convert your sections into symbols, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's exactly what I would recommend too, and that's how I built the whole website. And also talking about a symbol, if I go back to the feature page, I wanted to just mention something about the JavaScript and the way Webflow works. Is that so we use intensively the slideshow or the tabs. You can call it however you want. But on Webflow, you have a component that is used and made to create this slideshow, but it's very hard to customize it, and we wanted to have full control and ownership on how it was working. And so that's why we used something called we use JavaScript alongside the data attributes that you can apply on any div and any HTML HTML component. And so you can see that here I have the data platform illustration and attribute Jira, and so here you have the same illustration for Trello, and I've created in JavaScript a whole plugin to plug and link these attribute and data attribute with the switch here just at the top, so that when a user switch on one page, it automatically apply a local storage, and we know across the whole website what is their favorite integration, and which is something completely custom that is not available in Webflow. But that's something I wanted to show you, that Webflow is really great because you can use their existing feature and components, but you can also create your own and build on top of that, because they're really super flexible in the way you can build your pages. So that's really great. Yeah, super useful. And maybe a last trick, advanced trick that I want to share is about the open graph and the favicon. So Webflow doesn't want us to apply one open graph to all the pages, but a little hack I've used is to apply it in the head code of the page. And so I upload my assets directly in the Webflow uploader, get the URL, and here you can see that I apply all the open graph in the head code of the page. And so this way it's applied on every single page across
Otherwise
the
you have to do it on individual pages.
Yeah, otherwise you have to go on every page, upload an open graph, and it takes so much time, especially on your website. I think we have like more than 100 pages on our website, so it's not possible to do that. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Okay, cool, interesting. Well, I think we're already at what is it? Almost 15 minutes. So it's been quite a long tutorial. There's all the aspect of optimization, testing of the Webflow, doing all the SEO work that's necessary, and then explaining how we did our internal testing and how we collected feedback from the team and from our customers. But maybe we can keep that for a second session. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good idea. We can split it in two.
And so in the next episode, we'll talk about, as I said, how we did our SEO, how we optimized the website for performance, how we did our internal testing using tools like Smallplug, Marco.io, and many different tools. So stay tuned. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.